This is an extremely impromptu YouTube video, and I resolved not to make YouTube videos because I tend to kind of invest some time into making them, and I've been trying to focus on school. It is supposedly the last year of my bachelor degree, and I want to focus on studying and so forth, but I was prompted. I just felt compelled to make a video in response to a video entitled How Not to Pray, posted by Mars Hill Church, which you may be aware, it's the one in Seattle where Mark Driscoll preaches. Mark Driscoll, if you're not aware, is a lapsed Roman Catholic altar boy who's still kind of a Hazel Motes-ish Catholic. Read Wise Blood if you don't know who Hazel Motes is, by Flannery O'Connor. He's a professed Calvinist who's really... He could only be the sort of preacher he is if he were a lapsed Catholic. You can still sort of see that kind of Jonah-ish Catholicism to him. He's kind of running away. He's trying to get the Catholic monkey off his back, I think. He basically has a desacralized picture of sort of God's justice. And the way he portrays God is very much... You can imagine some angry Irish priest in Seattle shouting down homilies at him that he's sort of imbibed and stripped the Catholicism from and fitted into his Calvinistic mold. But anyways, that's sort of that's a topic for another video. This video is called How Not to Pray, and in it he basically announces his divorce from the Christian spiritual tradition. I don't really want to talk about it because I didn't like it, but he tells a story in the video about how he was in an airport and he saw a Jewish man praying in public, and he makes fun of how big the guy's hat is, which is asinine and retarded and infantile. You have to get used to a lot of immaturity in Mark Driscoll's sermons. But, and how Jesus would make fun of that person, just like Mark Driscoll does. He'd make fun of this Jewish person for praying in public and making a public spectacle of himself. That's who Jesus is ridiculing in the gospel, right before he offers the Lord's Prayer, the Our Father, and he says, "Don't be like the heathens do." He was talking about people like that who are trying to impress God by their repeated prayers, their incessant prayers. We ought to approach God instead like a father. We ought to approach him like children approaching their father, that is to say. A child doesn't repeat himself over and over again. He just says, "Dad, can I have this? Can I have, a bun or something? Can I have bread? Will you give me this?" We don't repeat it over and over again. Now, I don't know what Mark Driscoll's kids are like. Kids tend to actually repeat stuff over and over again, in my experience, but then again, I'm not a father, so maybe I shouldn't speak. What I really wanted to talk about was what the Bible really has to say about this. And I'm going to go to Psalm 55 and verse 17. "Evening and morning and at noon will I pray and cry aloud, and he shall hear my voice." Now I'm going to read from John Gill's commentary briefly. "These being the stated time of prayer with the Jews, which continued to later ages, Daniel 6:10 is the reference that he provides." And he talks a bit about that. You can look up John Gill's commentary for yourself. I'm using eSword, so this will hopefully go quickly enough. A quote from Daniel 6:10 is that Daniel went into his house, and his window being opened in the chamber toward Jerusalem, he kneeled upon his knees 3 times a day and prayed and gave thanks to God as he did aforetime. So there you see Psalm 55 being fulfilled in the person of Daniel, who... It's very difficult to find someone who's got a more... short of Christ himself, who's got a kind of a more positive representation in the scriptures than Daniel. Now, I was talking about this on Facebook recently, and someone commented saying, "When Christ came to earth, the game changed. We can accommodate Daniel and Jesus' instructions on prayer." Well, we can certainly accommodate Daniel and Jesus, and certainly the game changed when Christ came. But I want to read, briefly Acts 3, verse 10. "Now Peter and John went up together to the temple at the hour of prayer, being the 9th hour." And then Acts 10, verses 3, 9, and 30. He talks about, "I was fasting up until this hour, and at the 9th hour I was praying in my house." So it suggests that there's still, after Christ, in the book of Acts, there's still the same, 3 times a day, morning, noon, and evening prayer. And Adam Clarke, who was a Wesleyan commentator, says, "It appeareth that there were 3 hours of the day destined by the Jews to public prayer. Perhaps these are what are referred to by David in Psalm 55:17. Well, there you go. There are 3 distinct times marked in the book of Acts: the 3rd hour, Acts 2:15, answers to 9 o'clock; the 6th hour, Acts 10:9, answers to 12 o'clock; and the 9th hour mentioned in this verse, answers to our 3 in the afternoon. And he also talks about what the rabbis have to say about this, and there's a natural division made by the rabbis that men should pray when the sun rises, when the sun has passed the meridian, and when the sun has set or passed just under the horizon. Now consider what this Wesleyan commentator, Adam Clarke, has to say. At each of these 3 times they required men to offer prayer to God, and I should be glad to know that every Christian in the universe observed the same rule. It is the most natural division of the day, and he who conscientiously observes these 3 stated times of prayer will infallibly grow in grace, and in the knowledge of Jesus Christ our Lord. And again, remember, into the New Testament, Psalms were what were being prayed. Psalms were the prayer of the church. Psalm 55 would have been one of the prayers of the church. So, I mean, even if you're saying, oh, they were only praying, to accommodate the Jews, which wouldn't really quite make sense with the fact that Cornelius, a Gentile, is praying at those liturgical hours, if you will. There's no reason to suspect, whether from the scriptures or from history, that ever dropped off. And I'll post some links to Wikipedia, because it's quick and convenient, about the canonical hours. And also, even just quickly in reference to Daniel praying towards Jerusalem, Catholic cathedrals are built towards the east normally, and if they can't, there's this concept of liturgical east that it kind of stands for, pointing towards the east. So the question is, did Daniel not appreciate that God was Father? Did he not come to him as a son towards his father? I mean, did David not appreciate the relationship to God? Did he not understand the definition of prayer? I mean, did the early Christians in the book of Acts, I mean, maybe because this was before Paul came along and straightened them out in Acts 15, that's why they were still praying. I mean, this is just such a shallow and asinine thing to be touting about so cavalierly that, oh, well, coming to God means, just being informal and being short and not being like the Jews do. And if you want to know why people are attracted to, say, Judaism or Catholicism or Orthodoxy or Islam or even just any kind of Eastern spirituality like Buddhism, it's because this is what evangelicalism has to offer. It's so paltry and weak and flimsy. That doesn't inspire anyone. I mean, there's just something inherently unspiritual about this attitude that Mark Driscoll and so much of the, I'm Christian, but I don't go to church, or I don't believe in Christianity, or I'm spiritual but not religious. That crowd has nothing to offer over against these liturgical, mystical, and meditative traditions. I think that's pretty much all I have to say for now, and I'm going to shut up now and leave a minute of time at the end of the video just in case YouTube cuts off the end of this video. But I hope I made myself clear. And if I wasn't clear, watch the original video that I'm linking to, and you'll know what I'm responding to and why I am so indignant about it. Take care.